shopgear.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Oh, hello again, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Listen In podcast here on the Gear Radio Network. This is the pre-show. Yes, the little pre-show infomercial that we did. First of all, thank you all for all of your downloads and listens last week. You guys are tremendous, and I'll tell you what, best way to support us, of course, is through our Amazon link, and right now I'm just browsing, writing the show, trying to write the show as best as I can, because the free agency frenzy or the legal tampering period of the NFL has literally changed the show 3 or 4 times for me, and I have no idea what I'm writing or I'm putting together now, but I promise you it'll all come together. But you know what you can do? You can go on to Amazon via the Gear Radio Network, either gearnetwork.com/Amazon or using our short link, shopgear.com. And you can shop for a lot of different things. Check this out. This is what I'm looking at right now. Currently on my screen, the Ring Alarm home security system with optional 24/7 professional monitoring, no contracts, 5-piece kit, and it works with Alexa. It is yours for $199 a month on Prime or 5 monthly payments of only $39.80, and then we'll deliver it right to you. You make 5 monthly payments, you are good to go. The best thing is you can install it yourself. Very easy breezy to do, and it is $10 a month, just $10 a month, optional 24/7 professional monitoring with no contracts or cancellation fees. It puts the whole home security at your fingertips. You get alerts on your smartphone when the doors or windows are open or motion is detected. You can manage the Ring Alarm and other Ring products, including the doorbell, with the Ring app. You can customize your Ring Alarm for your needs, add components at any time for home protection, easily set up Ring Alarm in minutes without tool or professional installation. That's the biggest thing there. You can go to ADT, you can go to the big guys, whatever, and they'll charge you an arm and a leg. Ring does not. A 5-piece kit, ladies and gentlemen, $199.99 on Amazon Prime, and of course, doing your Amazon shopping, whether it's the free 30-day trial of Prime that we can hook you up with, it helps Gear Network out. Y'all have been aces for that. Keep continuing to do that, and keep continuing to listen in. Brandon and I return right after the open.
Look, you want the truth? Okay, then listen in. My first link was
This is the Listen In podcast with your hosts, John Cimino and Brandon Gorell, here on the Gear Radio Network.
And hello, thanks to all of you again for listening in to us here on the Gear Radio Network. The Listen In podcast is on the air. John Cimino here, Mr. Brandon Gorell over there.
Yo.
We
What's up?
are, of course, presented today, no commercial interruption, thanks to your continued use of Amazon via Gear Network, gearnetwork.com/Amazon or shopgear.com. Of course, if you don't want to shop Amazon, but you want to support us, we have a PayPal link on gearnetwork.com. It's underneath the Amazon banner, underneath the Amazon link, rather. You can donate to us there. We would certainly appreciate it. Brandon, on today's show, a crazy week. Last week that was literally, we tried to convene and we just could not do it because everything. I had to rewrite the podcast like 4 times that day, and it just
we did get online.
Like,
we were about to do it, and then we got online to go do it, and then it was just like, well, this just happened, and then we were like laughing about that, and then another thing happened, and it was like, holy shit, we should just probably wait on this thing.
Yeah, and by the time we made the executive decision, like 3 more things happened after that, and we were like, fuck this, whatever. But anyways, poll time. We did some polls on our Facebook page, facebook.com/listeninpodcast. Like it, share it with your friends, share it on your walls. Let's get these likes up. We've got crazy, silly Gumby interaction with the polls on there, and it's made for some interesting conversations. And we had 4 of them last week that we'll touch up on a little bit later on. But the first thing is first, before we get to the rundown, Brandon, I just want to say, I know that, every time you do, if you do a rebrand or you do a shuffle or you start something new, it comes with a degree of risk. And I must say, when we changed format from Football Talk Weekly to not just Football Talk Weekly, back to Football Talk Weekly to FTW, it was kind of, stagnant and it was what it was. But then since we rebranded to this and got a little more interactive online and things like that, The numbers for the launch episode were very pleasing, and I know I'm hopelessly thinking that'll happen every week. Realistically, I do not think it will, but suffice it to say, the heavy amount of downloads, I mean a lot of downloads, of the heavy amount of live plays, the feedback that I've received either through email or on the YouTube page or whatever. Really, really awesome. A true testament to everybody, not just you, but myself and everybody here at the Gear Network and all of our platforms and everybody that is entertained by us. So on behalf of Brandon, whom doesn't really do good with these kinds of things, I think. I don't know. I never leave it to him. But on behalf of Brandon, thank you all for all of your listening, for all of your interaction. And let's keep it going. I like it. I'm happy.
That's good. I'm glad you're happy.
Tell the listeners thank you, Brandon. God damn it, thank them.
No.
Okay, fair enough.
Because that would be changing up my style, and I'm not going to change for anybody.
That's right. Okay.
There's no thank yous. No thank yous.
Well,
no
you know
pleases.
what? You know what's funny, and I was telling you this off air, but I was on the BLTD podcast a couple of days ago, which if you haven't listened, it's new. If you haven't heard it, it's new to you here on Gear.
They're all new to me.
BLTD, Ryan and I were on there, and you know, I know my audience with you, and I'm listening. I know my audience on the JC Money Show.
Yep.
I sort of know my audience on Trust the Podcast. I haven't quite gone to the extreme or whatever, the very dry Jesselnick style humor that you and I throw on here from time to time. BLTD, however, Brandon and I cracked a joke about Kareem Hunt being the great kicker, the best kicker on the Cleveland Browns. And while I know if I were to have said this, as in a joking manner on this podcast with you, or if I had Perez with me or whatever, we'd be laughing at it. Ryan got all sorts of uncomfortable. So sorry, Ryan, and sorry, BLTD. I'll try my best to slowly ease that humor into those podcasts. But, for all that kind of shit, stick with us here. But all right, yep. Brandon, free agency. This was one of the biggest, most talked about free agency periods, I think, in, I don't know, recent memory, quite some time. There was moves being made. It seemed like every 45 minutes something was breaking. Somebody was committing during the legal tampering period. Somebody was committing to here, and then
just like move it up a day. Who gives a shit?
Right. That's the thing. I think it's all just a smoke show at that point. Clearly, with what's his face from Minnesota that was supposed to come to the Jets.
You Anthony Barr. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, exactly.
An extra night to think about it.
Exactly. And I think we would have gotten Anthony Barr. It would have been real good, but I'm happy with what the Jets have. So we're going to start there, with the Jets, since it is, I'm a Jets fan. Brandon's a Packers fan. Those are the two teams that I wrote right to start off to begin with. Linebacker CJ Mosley, formerly of the Baltimore Ravens, signs a 5-year, $85 million deal with the New York Football Jets. 26 years of age. He averages 119.4 tackles. This is careers. 119.4 tackles, 1.8 interceptions, 1.7 sacks in 5 seasons in Baltimore. He's only missed three games. He's been praised for his durability throughout the course of his career. And he's likely going to be used as a middle linebacker in Greg Williams' 4-3 defense. Brandon, I ask you as the non-Jets fan here, good move or bad move here, signing this guy?
That's a good move.
Are you even familiar with him?
Who, CJ Mosley?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a good. I think it's definitely a good.
He's a good get. I know a few teams were after him. He had some links to possibly going to Green Bay too, because Green Bay was looking for some more edge rushing linebackers. So yeah, Mosley's a solid sign. I mean, you guys didn't really do bad at all.
No, not at all.
On your signings.
Well, and it was something. It was something that I said over the course of last season was that, they were going to have a lot of money to spend, and how they spend it is really going to, determine, really the direction that they're going to go in with Sam Darnold.
They still got money left.
They absolutely do. They do.
You filled some holes. You got to do some well and do well in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Fill some holes there, and then
especially in that
see
line.
where it gets you. Yeah,
but whereas last year Sam Darnold was turning around and handing the ball to Bilal Powell or Isaiah Crowell, he's now going to be turning and handing the ball off to or throwing the ball to Le'Veon Bell. He had been heavily
better served to throw it to him more often.
Yes, I don't disagree with you there. But Le'Veon Bell, ladies and gentlemen, long rumored to the Jets. There was talk of him possibly maybe going to Baltimore, but Baltimore saying they weren't in the game. Le'Veon Bell said Buffalo. Well, everybody was rumored to Buffalo at one point.
Yeah.
I just heard that the Giants apparently tried to contact the Bills about possibly trading Odell Beckham there. Which we'll get to later on. Spoiler: he was traded to Cleveland. In case you didn't know by now.
In case you've been living under a rock and only been listening to no spoilers to get to our podcast,
right? To
get the real scoop on who's here.
Wait, Midge.
Listen to Joe and Madge.
Hey, Midge.
Yeah, OBJ went to the Browns.
What did the Giants get for him?
Toast.
All right. Thank you, Midge. Le'Veon Bell, ladies and gentlemen, 27 years of age. He last played in 2017, held out for all of 2018. He did not want to play for the franchise tag that they were going to give him. His career rushing totals 1,229 attempts, 5,336 yards, 35 touchdowns. Receiving totals 312 receptions, 2,660 yards, 7 touchdowns. He is the clear-cut number one back for the Jets, but I ask you this, Brandon, does his playing, and not playing rather, for a year help or hurt him?
I think it helps, to be honest. I mean, what would have happened if he would have torn his ACL in week 1 last year? He would have had a year off, right?
Yes.
And what do guys do? They come back and they play, right?
Yes.
So he's not coming back from a devastating knee injury. There's no questions about can he recover from this ACL surgery? He's coming back after not getting his ass kicked last year. He just saved himself a year of mileage. And playing for the Steelers, he would have been putting a lot of miles on it.
Of course, because it was even. I mean,
they used Connor a lot last year.
Connor was used a lot, and you can tell towards the end of the season it was taking a toll on him. So, but Le'Veon Bell going to the Jets, now he's going to be, the offensive line is not necessarily the greatest. It wasn't Buffalo Bills bad, but, the last 4 games of the season, Sam Darnold actually ranked, was one of the top 3 in completion percentage and all that crap. So apparently they were improving at some point towards the end with that, but they fill in some holes. It is obviously a massive, massive weapon for Sam Darnold, which is really good. I do think that
short passing game,
exactly. I do think that if Le'Veon Bell were, let's say, Frank Gore's age, coming back after not playing for a year, I think that might have hurt him.
It would have, but then again, he's not going to get a 5-year or a 4-year, $52 million deal, being Frank Gore's age either.
True.
So, the fact that he's 27 years old,
right?
It's not like he's coming off of any major injuries. There might be some fitness issues, but it's going to work out in camp and it's going to work out in the preseason, and by regular season he's going to be fine.
I love watching the Instagram videos that he was putting out, that the Jets were putting out, and whether or not it's a smokescreen or whatever, the guy seems genuinely very happy to be there.
Yeah.
He put an Instagram video with him and his mother chanting JETS and talking about Curtis Martin being one of his favorite running backs. So he's saying all the right things. Now
He didn't look like he was 300 pounds, did he?
No, he did not look like he was 300 pounds.
Again, that's the load of shit that's been going out there too.
Yep. He definitely did not look like he was 300 pounds. So, and of course, now with the contract signed, knowing, the stories of him and how he is and his work ethic and all that stuff, I guarantee you, as we speak, he's probably putting time in there now, shredding up and working out and doing what he's got to do, which is really good. But other honorable Jets mentions, Henry Anderson returns to the team on a 3-year, $25.2 million deal. And Jamison Crowder, Brandon, 3 years, $28.5 million, good slot receiver addition for the Jets there. Now, they didn't go after Antonio Brown, and they certainly don't have a number one receiver, but they have a solid core of 2 and 3s. So do you think, this is just generally
like
speaking,
the women of Buffalo? Hey,
I made that joke on BLTD. I swear to God, I made that joke on BLTD too. We were talking about that with the Bills. But to that point, because the Buffalo Bills are in the same, ironically enough, in the same boat with having, Cole Beasley and whomever, not a clear-cut number one wide receiver, but a solid core of 2s and 3s. Does something like that balance out for teams if you have a good group of decent receivers instead of one main target? And what do you think for those teams that have that situation? What do you think? How do you think that benefits them?
I think it benefits them because you don't have one guy that you're going to key in on. You're not having one guy that's demanding all the touches. You just got a group of guys that are solid. I mean, Tom Brady works with 2s and 3s all the time. It seems like every year you look in the Super Bowl. When is Antonio Brown been in the Super Bowl? When has Julio Jones been in the Super Bowl other than blowing a 28-3 lead? Julio Jones wasn't even the number one receiver that year. Every time like the top 2-3 receivers, they don't make it to the Super Bowl. It seems to be the guys that have, look at the Rams. Rams don't have like a superstar, guy. They have a group of good receivers. They've got Robert Woods. They've got Cooper Kupp, who was injured this year. Mm-hmm. They got what's his name, Brandon Cooks. Mm-hmm. Those are all good players. They're not number ones, like, true number ones. They're not like a Julio Jones. They're not, an Antonio Brown or a Devontae Adams or, whoever you want to put on that list. They're not guys that are going to be, requiring a double every time they go down the field. So when you've got 2 to 3 guys running solid routes, one of those guys are going to be open. Mm-hmm. And if that guy starts getting, hit with a lot of, slant patterns, little quick outs and stuff, they're going to start to key in on that guy. So then the other guy is going to be free. It's better, I think, to have a good collective than it does to have one good receiver and a couple of like, who the fuck are they? I think that especially for a young quarterback, because young quarterbacks tend to rely on that top receiver. I mean, Andy Dalton does it all the time with AJ Green. I mean, it's like, oh, AJ's not open. I guess I'll throw this guy. Like, he just seems nervous to do it. I think that for a young quarterback, being able to go through your progressions is going to help you. And if you're going through your progressions and you've got 3 pretty good 2s and 3s, you got 2 2s and a 3, then you're in pretty good shape. I mean, you're going to get guys open. I mean, corners can only cover for so long before, a wideout makes a move and it's going to be open. And it's usually, as quick as a hiccup, that ball comes out too, because quarterbacks got that timer in their head too. So, I think that's going to benefit guys like Josh Allen. I think it's going to benefit guys like Sam Darnold greatly to have multiple receivers who can get open either short or deep. So yeah, I think it's better to have that than it is to have. I mean, Green Bay's never really had someone you would classify as a number one till Devontae Adams. I mean, even Devontae Adams, no one's really like hey, I'm going to put him on my top 5 list. Like, he wasn't even on the top 5 this year. It was DeAndre Hopkins, it was Antonio Brown, it was Julio Jones, it was AJ Green, and I forget who the other option was, but he wasn't even in the top 5. And I'm like, dude, he almost led the league in receptions, and he was second to Antonio Brown for touchdowns. I mean, the guy's good, but he's overlooked. And again, I mean, Green Bay had, Greg Jennings, and you think Greg Jennings is number one. Greg Jennings thought he was number one. Then he went to Miami, and how'd he do? It's a collective. I think it's a collective that
the big old Dougie smile wasn't there.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Speaking of the Packers, Brandon, let's go right to there.
Packers. I know
they get a couple of Smiths, Brandon.
Yep.
Preston Smith, formerly of Washington, and Zadarius Smith of Baltimore, both linebackers, both 26 years of age. Preston on a 4-year, $52 million deal, and Zadarius, a 4-year, $66 million team to bolster that defense, along with Adrian Amos, strong safety. 25 years old, 4 years, $37 million. Brandon, are you happy with the direction the Packers are going?
I'm very happy with the direction we're going.
Talk about
it. We got younger and faster and better at the line.
And spent some money too.
We spent some money, but you know what? We were spending that money on Nick Perry and Clay Matthews, and Nick Perry wasn't playing like most of the time, and Clay Matthews was just a step behind, and he just couldn't get there. He's running on borrowed time right now. So I think getting those two guys, getting two quick pass rushers. I mean, Zadarius Smith was one of the league leaders in quarterback hits last year, and percentage of dropbacks that he got a hit on the quarterback. Preston Smith played really well in Washington this past year too. So, and those two guys up the middle is really going to bolster, especially when you got guys like Jake Ryan who came in their own as well. To kind of shore up the middle of that thing. Now he could play his natural position while these guys play on the outside. So I think it's a great move. It's about time that we had a GM. I mean, Ted Thompson's probably, like losing his mind and having a conniption right now. We have to spend money, even though he's not with the team anymore, but still, adding that and then adding Adrian Amos from Chicago, to show up the strong safety, because he's going to have, Tramon Williams out there with him too. We got good corners now too, and we're going to get that defensive line back.
Let me ask you, do you feel they're going to contend with the Vikings this year?
Oh, they're absolutely going to contend with the Vikings. There's no doubt in my mind that they're going to contend. I think if they were not just healthier last year, they would have too. I mean, they lost their whole defensive line last year.
Right.
I mean, it was Wilkerson went down, and then it was Gilbert went down, and then it was God damn it, why am I totally blowing my mind right now? Daniels went down. So that was their 3 starting, defensive line guys. It just went down.
I'm going to be very interested. I'm going to be very interested to see the Packers this year, because new regime, new offense, with the bad man now. All he's known has been McCarthy.
Well, the bad man's been hearing people talk shit all off season too, so that was probably a big mistake.
Probably, yes. So I'm very curious to see how this new regime is going to do. Packers, obviously, like we mentioned here, bolstering their defense with some names, a pair of Smiths that are not Will or Jaden, and I mean, it's going to be good to see. And I would love nothing more than for them to punch the Vikings in the face, because I'm sick of hearing about I think the Vikings
were not very good last year, anyways.
Who?
The Vikings, it was the Bears that were the team last year, and we'll see how that goes.
Vikings, I think maybe it's just because I'm bitter about what's his face still.
Anthony Barr. Yeah, I mean that's fine to be bitter. I still think that the division is Chicago right now because of that defense. I still think Green Bay is going to be right there.
That's fair.
If not an elite top 3, top 4 team in the NFC right now.
Okay, very good. Let's talk about Jacksonville for a quick minute, Brandon. Florida. Actually, let's talk about the state of Florida for a minute, because the state of Florida is getting interesting there with their quarterbacks. Now, let's start with Jacksonville, where Nick Foles, the former Super Bowl MVP, former Philadelphia Eagle twice, former Kansas City Chief, former St. Louis Ram, is now signed a 4-year, $88 million deal. Good for him. With Jacksonville, He replaced his Blake Bortles, who was released on the 14th of March. Side note, just announced today before we started recording, Blake Bortles was picked up to be Jared Goff's backup in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Now, let me ask you this, because the Jags, they were a good team.
Yeah.
They were good, not last year, but the year before. They still have a lot of key pieces from that team that went to the AFC Championship game with Blake Bortles. Nick Foles is clearly an upgrade to Blake Bortles. Could the Jaguars, could the South, the AFC South, now, granted, in the Jaguars season of miracle there, they did it without Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck is healthy, and he is back in Indianapolis, obviously playing very, very well. Got the Colts to the playoffs last year. But could the AFC South run through Jacksonville with Nick Foles as their quarterback?
It's going to be tough. It's going to depend on whether that defense can step back up and play the way they did when they went on that run. The run games and Fournette are going to be important. And what kind of Nick Foles are we going to get? Are we going to get the Philadelphia Nick Foles, or are we going to get the Rams Nick Foles? The one that kind of fell apart after he left Philadelphia the first time. Everything was a big revelation, and you got to wonder if it's quarterback coaches that are doing it. Andy Reid was a big part of his success, and then if you look at it, also so was Doug Peterson. So. I believe it remains to be seen. He's going to be a huge upgrade to Blake Bortles. I mean, Bortles sucks.
There is some Philadelphia tie there. I can't remember. I think it was the quarterback's coach that's in Jacksonville now. I think has a tie to not Bortles. Well, he has a tie to Bortles because it was his quarterback until a couple of days ago. But they have a tie to Foles from Philadelphia. I just don't remember which regime, honestly. But I have to agree with you. I think that it's going to be very interesting to see. I don't think we're getting Kansas City or St. Louis Nick Foles with Jacksonville. I think he's older, not ancient. He's only 30, but he's older than he was the first time he left Philadelphia. He went back to Philadelphia. He tasted success at the highest level, beat the greatest of all time in both coaches and quarterback led teams in the Super Bowl, the biggest game. Won the MVP, so he's reached the highest mountain, and he did that after getting his second chance. I think he's wiser, and I do think that Jacksonville is going to be very interesting. Not like I said, interesting like with Green Bay, because I'm very interested to see Green Bay and how they. But I know that Green Bay is at least going to be good for contending because of Aaron Rodgers and because of Devontae Adams, because of their defense. They both
Aaron Jones too.
Aaron Jones, right?
I think he's gonna be a star.
Jacksonville, I have a feeling, is going to contend, and it should not be a surprise, but it's going to be a surprise because Andrew Luck is still in that division, and he's going to be playing, and he's going to be playing very well. I don't know that it's going to run through Jacksonville, but man, oh man. And then we talk about Jacksonville and their upgrades. Now we move over to the wide receivers, the big wide receiver news. And you thought that the first one was, so groundbreaking. Antonio Brown traded to Oakland for a 2019 third and fifth round picks from Pittsburgh. I mean, that was, you talk about a guy that bet on himself.
Yep.
And took on the system. Basically said, I don't give a shit what you say. I don't care what you say. F you, F you, F you. You're cool. F you, I'm out. And he goes to Oakland. Pittsburgh gets peanuts for him. Oakland gets a number one wide receiver for Derek Carr to throw to. And you talk, they have, 2 or 3 first round picks this year. I believe Oakland has that. They have
Oakland has
lot
3.
They have 3. They have 3 first round picks.
Maybe 4.
I thought it was 3, but it could be 4. But either
I'll
way,
call that up while you're talking.
But either way, everybody that laughed at Gruden last year, now they're not laughing so much anymore. I mean,
No.
Gruden's clearly got some kind of plan, and either it's going to be the most amazing plan ever, and when they walk into Las Vegas, they're going to be an unstoppable force. Alternatively, it could be a big flop, but you get that. But that's not even they have 3. That's what I thought.
Yeah, they're picking 4th, 24th, and 27th.
So that happens, and then the New York Giants say, "Hold my beer," because last month, actually 2 months ago, the general manager of the New York Giants, whose name I can't remember at this point because he's stupid,
Dave Gettleman
said, "Yeah, we're not trading Odell Beckham. We didn't sign him to trade him. In February, we didn't sign Odell Beckham to trade him. In March, oh hey, you know what? Cleveland's going to give us 1st and 3rd round picks as well as Jabril Peppers. You can have Odell Beckham Jr."
Yep.
Odell now joins Jarvis Landry and Baker Mayfield, and a backfield with Nick
and
Chubb,
David Njoku too.
And Cleveland all of a sudden went from being the team that we cheered on this very podcast 2 years in a row, going 0-16 and succeeding in one of those years, to being legitimate playoff contenders on paper right now. So I ask you, Brandon, given what was sent to the Giants in exchange for Odell Beckham Jr., who won this trade?
Oh, definitely the Browns. I mean, depends. I mean, you can look back in a couple of years and see who these picks. And if they turn out to be better than Odell Beckham Jr., my guess is probably not. He's a generational talent. Yeah, he's kind of a head case at times, but you know what? I don't think they're going to care. The guy's not getting into like actual trouble. He's just being kind of he's kind of being a baby at times. You throw him in that Cleveland team, out there with Landry, and you got Baker I mean, this whole team, this whole franchise changed when they brought in Mayfield, and Mayfield brought in that swagger. I mean, the night he replaced Tyrod Taylor, the Browns were no longer the Browns. You can see that the Browns were going to go somewhere finally. They had a leader who not only talked the talk, but he walked the walk as well. Now he's going to have Odell Beckham to throw to. I mean, Jesus Christ. Chubb came on.
You know what I mean?
And Chubb in the backfield, he came out hard that last 4 or 5 games of that season. He kind of had his coming out party. And I mean, yeah, they lose Jabril Peppers, and Jabril Peppers is a pretty good player, but he's not Odell Beckham good.
Odell is a game changer.
Coupled with a number 17 pick, whoever they grab at that position is probably not going to be Odell Beckham, even if you combine him with Peppers. So, I mean, honestly, I don't know how you can even look at this and think the Giants won anything. I mean, unless their whole goal is to tank until the following year and draft Tua number 1 overall. I mean, that's a good bet. If you want to get really, really bad, you got to get rid of Odell. He's going to accidentally win you some games. So,
I sat and I thought this over, and it's amazing to me. Once this was announced, I was reminded of a status that a known independent wrestler who's a friend of mine, Thomas Brewington, very, very big diehard Cleveland Browns fan. He made a post just after Baker Mayfield was drafted and said, if the Cleveland Browns make the playoffs within the next 3 seasons, I am going to disband my tag team with my tag team partner, Eric Emanon, and I will wrestle in a dress in every single town that I wrestle in.
Oh, is he getting the tailoring done right now? Because it's going to happen.
Once this happened, I sent Tommy a message and said, hey, Tommy, remember that deal you made that I screenshot that I can't find right now, but I'll remember come playoff time once, or come draft time once the Facebook memories reminds me. You remember that? He was like, shut up. So he knows.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming. And you know, the funny thing about this is the Antonio Brown pick, or the Antonio Brown trade, and the Odell Beckham Jr. trade. Gamers attempted to process this trade in Madden 2019.
Oh, no one would
They
take
tried to do it in, you know, I don't know how they tried to do it in many different ways. They tried to do it with the Giants doing it or the Browns doing it or whatever, you know, and the computer rejected all variations of that trade. That's how bad this trade was for Pittsburgh and for
the
New
Giants.
York.
I mean the Giants.
Oh no, they did it with the Antonio Brown one as well.
Oh, okay.
The Antonio Brown trade did not go through the Madden AI either.
No.
So according to Madden, Oakland and Cleveland clearly the winners. On
yeah,
that,
but Madden only considers stats. They don't consider anything else. Like Antonio Brown isn't doing. He isn't dyeing his mustache and calling himself Mr. Big Chest.
Big Chest.
and he's not doing that in Madden, so they're not. They don't have the big chest factor in Madden, so of course they're not going to take that one.
Jesus, Mr. Big.
I mean, Cleveland, I mean, if you look at it, they're probably the favorite now in the North. I mean, I don't know how you can't make them the favorite. I mean, Pittsburgh's falling apart. They just lost 2 of the 3 killer bees. They lost 1 last year, and they still missed the playoffs without him. Now it's just going to be Ben and Juju Smith-Schuster and John Connor, sorry. I always think James Conner.
I keep calling him James, too, don't worry. I keep calling him James.
So they're going to have him, an okay defense at best. And then you look at Baltimore. Baltimore is finally like all in on Lamar Jackson. They're going to be a decent team, but their defense has taken some hits. I mean, they lost some big players. Just to our 2 teams, they lost 2 big pieces. So, you know, and then you look at the Bengals. The Bengals are a fucking shit show right now too. So, they got, you know, coming back from serious injury for 2 of their players with AJ Green and Andy Dalton. You know, they just cut Vontaze Burfict today. So, you know, it's one of those things that it's just like, you know, and they got a whole new coach and a whole new staff finally in Cincinnati. So, you know, it's a transitional year for a lot of those teams. I think it's a pretty safe bet if you're going to put money on, you know, the team winning the North. It's going to be Cleveland. I mean, they've got that swagger. They've got that belief. They're making moves, which makes the players even more hungry and more excited. The fans are going to be going fucking bananas in Cleveland.
Oh, God, yes. You know, I was listening to an interview.
This is the greatest thing since LeBron coming back.
Right. And even when even that, it's funny you mention that because, and before we move on to the next piece, I was listening to terrestrial radio at work, and there was an interview with a Cleveland sports blogger or whatever that they had on the sports bar. And they were talking to him. He has, you know, Buffalo ties or whatever, so I guess that's why they brought him on. But they talked to him and they asked flat out, you know, how does the news of Odell Beckham and the moves that the Browns have made in the past couple of years compare to when LeBron and the Cavs, you know, when LeBron came back and when LeBron won the NBA and the Cavs won the NBA title? He said it absolutely does not compare. He said Cleveland is a Cleveland Browns town, and after that, after that, it's about the Cleveland Indians, and then it's the Cleveland Cavaliers. You know, he goes, LeBron. He goes, case in point. He goes, I was covering the game in Quicken Loans Arena when the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James came back to play against James. The Cavaliers. And he said the arena was not sold out. And it happened to be on a day where some Cleveland Browns news was made or whatever. And he goes, I guarantee you, you know, the NBA title parade had 1.4 million people. He goes, if the Cleveland Browns were to win the Super Bowl, I guarantee you they would shut the city down because there would at least be 4 or 5 people there for that parade. So,
right. Yeah, I mean, it is going to be bigger. I'm just saying this is the biggest thing to happen to Cleveland since LeBron came back.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
There's no doubt that's a football town. It's a blue collar town. I mean, basketball's cool and all, but they just wanted a winner and they finally got one. But if it happens with the Browns, I mean, holy shit.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be like Ultimate in there.
Oh, it's gonna be insane. And I, for one, would be very happy for that fan base, that long suffering fan base.
Yeah. I mean, they got their team jacked from them. That team went and won a Super Bowl not too long after. It's a lot for that franchise. And they come back and they're shitty.
0-16. Enough said.
0-16, like 20 different quarterbacks. I mean, it's been bananas there.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go and promote our Facebook page, facebook.com/listeninpodcast. Definitely, again, go on there, like the page, share the page, let everybody know you like the page and that you're sharing the page. And tell them to like the page and share the page, and let's grow this bad boy. We like to do on the Listen In Podcast Facebook page a lot of different polls, and it's not just limited to football. I know football is king of this here land, and that's the basis for really this. It's the groundwork for this podcast, even though we're variety, but whatever. Football dominated the news last week.
Yeah, absolutely.
I threw up a couple of polls just for shits and giggles, and I wanted to see how it would work. And you pollsters did not disappoint me. So, Brandon, the first poll I threw up was Frank Gore versus Vince Carter. Frank Gore signed with the Buffalo Bills and will play in 2019. Vince Carter, a week before that, declared that he intends on returning to play for another season, which would be his 21st.
Yep.
I have no reason to believe that somebody in the NBA wouldn't pick him up. So we asked who will retire first. Not at the end of the season. I'm talking about, who will play longer. And 70% of the voters say that Frank Gore would retire before Vince Carter does. Brandon, do you agree or disagree?
I agree. That I voted for that. I mean, that's an easy one. I mean, the NFL is way more taxing on your body than the NBA is. I think it's going to be Gore's last year. And his son apparently is playing at the University of Buffalo.
Yeah. So that's a nice little tie there. The next one, Brandon, was a New York Giants poll that we threw out there. We asked, who should the Giants have really moved on from? And the choices were Eli Manning and Odell Beckham Jr. And 72% of the pollsters said that Eli Manning should have been the one gone, while they kept Odell Beckham Jr. Agree or disagree with that?
I disagree. I think it should have been 100% Eli, not 72%. I don't know what the fuck other 28 people were thinking about. So
I look at this 100%. and I agreed as well that they should have moved on from Eli. Here's where I look at it. I'm ripping this off of Stephen A. Smith without getting as animated as he does, because I can't do a good Stephen A. Smith voice. That's your impression there. But he pointed out that this is a case of where the Giants, whom have always been about, doing it the right way and not having very many off-field distractions, things like that. This is where that comes in. Eli Manning has been dull, boring. He's got the Eli face, but he comes to work. He's very polite. He's very media friendly. He's very this. He doesn't kick nets. He doesn't, do the things that Odell did. Granted, different upbringings or whatever. Odell's just a very colorful personality.
Wide receiver versus quarterbacks. You don't see quarterbacks doing any of that shit.
Eli is not. Yes, you're right. I mean, the closest we came to was now Memphis Express quarterback Johnny Manziel. But, Stephen A. argued that this is a case of the Giants taking care of Eli because he's done their brand proud. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I disagree. Who the fuck's going to take him for anything? I mean, no one's going to take Eli Manning. Eli Manning is either going to get cut or nothing. No one's going to trade and say, you know what? I'll give you a first and a third round draft pick for Eli Manning. Nobody wants that guy. Like, teams are drafting new quarterbacks or trading for other quarterbacks that are younger, that have had better playing days. I don't even think the Denver Broncos would have given up much. And they're a train wreck of a franchise for bad quarterbacks anyways.
Flacco.
I think Flacco at this point in his career is better than Eli Manning is at this point in his career. Eli is he's slow. He is a sitting duck back there. And I don't think him going to another bad team is going to resurrect his career. So it doesn't matter if Odell Beckham was the most upstanding citizen and he was, the most, it's production. If you can get a top brand safety hybrid, linebacker plus 2 picks that include a first round pick for a wide receiver who is great, but isn't really going to be part of your rebuild program. I mean, you're going to be rebuilding for the next 3 years. It's a 3 to 5 year process for most teams. It's rare that a team can go in there and rebuild after 1 to 2 years of hitting on some draft picks. It takes a while. When you become bad and you start to tank, the wheels come off and it takes some time. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. Look at the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, these are teams that were in the Super Bowl, not too long ago. It's not too distant of a memory. And yet there they are drafting towards the top of the draft board. And they're still there drafting towards the top of the draft board because it takes a good 3 to 5 solid, good drafts to keep going. Even if you have a franchise quarterback, it's still difficult to do. I mean, Green Bay never got to that tank place. They never got to that place of tanking. They went from Favre to Rodgers, so they've always been good. Pittsburgh, I think, is the next team that could be in line for that really down time. I mean, they are mediocre at best right now. They just lost 2 of their 3 best weapons. And their quarterback is aging out, and their backup quarterback is nothing to write home about. The defense is kind of falling apart and slowing down. It's when teams start to do that, it takes a long time for them to rebuild and come back. This is not like the NHL where, you have a farm system full of players that you are developing and that could, move their way back up into your, pro franchise and keep you guys, going, even if you lose the superstar or two. It's very difficult in the NFL, and that's why the teams like the 49ers are finding out. I mean, look how long it's taken Cleveland to get in the game. I mean, they had to start with a new franchise. They've had some disastrous leadership that doesn't help. But, I mean, Denver is starting to really suck. And they were just in the Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl a couple years ago.
The longest playoff drought before 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
At this point. And that was more of a fluke.
Right.
The Bills very well could have been 19 seasons deep now at this point.
Right. And Buffalo, I mean, look at Buffalo. Buffalo is, a franchise that has been poorly run for quite some time. And they keep drafting poorly. But now they're starting to actually make good draft picks. They're starting to make draft picks that are helping their team. They've made some impact players drafted on the defensive side of the ball. They finally drafted a franchise quarterback. So Buffalo will start moving the needle there because you're going to start building around those guys and you have a foundation. So now it's like, okay, let's fill in the gaps. The Giants are in a place where if they had Odell Beckham there, they're going to accidentally win some games. They're going to slow down their rebuild, but they're still going to be terrible. I mean, they were 5-11 last year, and they were lucky to be 5-11 last year. Lucky to be that good. So I just don't think that keeping Odell Beckham was in the plans for the Giants. I mean, sure, the lip service was we didn't sign him to trade him. But at the same time, he has to look at that roster and go, man, if I can free up that salary, pick up a couple of high-end draft picks, pick up an impact player on the defensive end, you got to pull the trigger on it. I mean, I get where Gettleman's going. He's going to take a lot of heat for this for a while until the Giants are good. But if he hits on those draft picks, they're sitting in at 6 and 17 in the first round. That's a pretty solid, start if you can hit on those 2 draft picks.
Now, all things considering here, I know Saquon Barkley is a game changer.
Yep.
I do still think
who you build around.
I do. Yes, he's who you build around, right? But I do still think that the Giants did not make the best choice by drafting him last year. I think they should have gone They should have gone a quarterback. They should have gone.
I don't think that there was a quarterback on the board that can run that franchise.
You don't think so? You think it's that much in shambles that none of the quarterbacks that were there could have run it?
I can't see Allen, Rosen, or Darnold running the New York Giants. The New York Jets, totally different game. The Jets are little brother. The New York Giants are always going to be New York. That's the first team you're going to think of unless you're a Jets fan. The Giants have the track record. They have the success.
It's Yankees. So you're equating it Yankees Mets essentially,
right? Yes, basically. So you're going to tell me that one of those 3 guys is going to come in and that franchise, that roster is going to be the guy that leads a rebuild. I don't think so. I don't think any of those guys are rebuild material. I think Atua could be. I think that kid from Clemson could be. So I don't think that any of those guys that they drafted last year were going to be better for that franchise than Saquon Barkley is. Saquon Barkley is a beast, and he is going to complement a young quarterback coming in. I don't think that without Barkley, I think if they drafted one of those quarterbacks, they would have been bad for a really long time.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
If they would have gone Rosen, which is what a lot of people were saying they should have gone with.
They might still get him. You never know. Depending on if Arizona goes and grabs Kyler Murray.
Yeah, but I don't see where anyone would take Josh Rosen.
Maybe.
Giants are not going to either.
Let's move back to the Cleveland Browns. We asked if the Browns are now legitimate. I can't believe I'm saying this. Legitimate Super Bowl contenders.
Let's slow down.
60% of the pollsters, Brandon, said not so fast.
No, it's a definite
agree or disagree.
I agree wholeheartedly. It should have been higher. You can't put that. I mean, they're going to get their first playoff berth in a long time this year. They're not Super Bowl contenders. I mean, the Chiefs are a very complete team. You've always got New England in it. The Colts are going to be tough. The Jaguars are going to be tough. The Texans are going to be tough. There is a lot of teams that you're going to have to go through in the AFC to get to a Super Bowl, and I don't think that they're ready for that. I think maybe in a couple of years we can say, yeah, Super Bowl contenders legitimately. But let's get through a season and get to a playoff spot first.
All right,
and see if we can actually win a playoff game first would be a good start before I start talking Super Bowl with these guys.
That's fair. And finally, Brandon, Antonio Brown versus Amari Cooper. We asked, who would you rather have on your team? Gruden, of course, having traded Amari Cooper last season for a number 1 pick. Now he has Antonio Brown for peanuts.
Crazy thing is that he kept all those number 1 picks and still got Antonio Brown.
Right. 58% of the pollsters, this was the closest of the 4 polls, 58% of the pollsters said they would rather have Antonio Brown than Amari Cooper. Brandon, what say you?
Yeah, it's Antonio Brown for sure. I don't know why it was only 58%, to be honest. I don't think Amari Cooper is that good of a guy. He had a couple great games with Dallas, and then what happened to him?
I think it was because he more or less made Dak Prescott look good.
Yeah, but he did it for a few weeks. He didn't do it when it mattered.
That's very true.
So I don't know where this whole 42% thought Amari Cooper was the man. I mean, they must have been them boy fans. That's the only thing I could think of. That should be a lot higher. Antonio Brown for sure.
I would think yes, indeed. Mr. Big Chest, was that what he called
Right,
himself?
man, Mr. Big Chest.
Mr. Big Chest. I would agree, Mr. Big Chest.
Dude, he totally played everybody because he got in there. The blonde mustache was immediately gone. His hair was back to Antonio Brown. It was like I knew it was all a ploy. He wanted out of Pittsburgh. He wanted away from Ben Roethlisberger. He just wanted
Fat
out.
Brock Osweiler.
Fat Brock Osweiler. He wanted out, man.
Forever. I know you're very big on Mr. Big Chest, and that is the name of this week's episode is Mr. Big Chest. But right. Fat Brock Osweiler will forever be my favorite Antonio Brownism.
Oh, so good.
With regards to Ben Roethlisberger. It was freaking hilarious. I know I said on the show notes, no quick hits, but really quickly, we talked about it briefly. Johnny Manziel to the AAF. He is signed with the Memphis Express. No word on whether or not he's going to start. Zach Mettenberger, the Express quarterback, was out of the game due to an injury on Saturday. So that'll be
another game for sucking.
that'll be interesting to see. And Ryan Fitzpatrick, Brandon's AFC East tour continues. He is now signed with the Miami Dolphins. I don't know the exact figures, but I know it was a 2-year deal. It was 2 years, $11 million. That's what it was. 2 years, $11 million. The question I have is why?
Tannehill.
What's that?
He's better than Tannehill.
Yes, Tannehill, of course, traded to the Tennessee Titans, by the way. Right. So he's going.
The Dolphins don't pick till 13th. They're not going to get a franchise quarterback at 13. I don't think.
All right. So more or less to keep him. And I will tell you this. I'll tell you this, Dolphins fans, you're gonna like him, and you're gonna like him enough because he's going to keep you in games and keep you engaged. And then when you get to the point where you really like him, he's going to hit that Fitz magical wall and be completely terrible, and you're going to hate him.
Yeah.
That's the roller coaster of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ask Buffalo, Cincinnati,
Tampa,
New York,
the Texans,
the Titans, the Bucks. I don't know who. There's got to be some other teams I'm missing, but whatever. But anyways,
Rams?
Ryan Fitzpatrick's AFC East tour continues. He's pretty much immediately slotted as the number one. So it's going to be interesting to see how my buddy Tom Ernest from Dolphins Talk podcast changes his tune about Ryan Fitzpatrick. I should ask him about that. See if he's going to get a Fitzmagic jersey. But that is all I have as far as news and all that stuff. So Brandon, Mr. Concert Guy. You went to I think 5 more last week.
I went to 1.
Okay, fair enough. Quick rundown. How was this week? How was that week's concert for you?
Oh, it was dope, man. Rebel Bucket, one of my most fun bands to see. They're a lot of fun, a lot of energy, a lot of crowd participation. Just a lot of it's really an enjoyable show.
You got the shoulder. Yeah. You had to.
I was the shoulder taxi again.
The shoulder taxi.
My 3rd time actually. So usually what the band does, they do the song called "Came Out of a Lady," and it has this solo breakdown thing that they do, after the first 2 verses and then the chorus. The band goes through the audience and the brass section does, and they go through the audience and they play their instruments through their sax player, trumpet player, and a trombone player. The trombone player left the band, so now they have 2 trumpet players. And usually it's the trumpet player that goes around on somebody's shoulders, and it's twice been me. Mm-hmm. So, I know what's coming. That they're going to start looking for somebody in the front row.
So you get yourself into position.
I mean, I'm there in the front row anyways. I mean, if I can be front row for anything, I'm going to be front row. That's my spot. Whether it's Rebel Bucket, I mean, I was front row for Anderson .Paak. I've been for Dave Matthews a bunch of times, Manchester Orchestra, all these bands I go see. If I can get a front row, I'm in the front row.
Okay.
So anyways, they always do this for this song. They do they can come look for somebody. So they look for a tall guy who looks like he can handle his shit. And, right away, Alex is kind of putting the hand over the eyes to kind of like shield from the spotlight to take a look at the crowd. And he's looking down and he starts pointing over to me. And I was like, I knew it. I knew he was going to do it. And my friend Corey was thinking it might have been him. And I was like, dude, you're short and not very strong. Like, it's not going to happen. So This time I was a little surprised. They actually had the second trumpet player and they had me take him around. And he was a bigger dude. Like Alex is a smaller guy. I'd say he's like 5'9", probably weighs about like 165, 170.
Okay.
Pretty easy to mow around. This guy was my height, about 6 feet. And he's probably in the 200 range. And he was pretty well built. He wasn't like a, scrawny little guy. I mean, he had some build to him. So they asked me and I was like, yeah, sure. Threw him on there. I don't know if it's just the fact that I work out so much on my legs or it's the fact that you got the concert, just charging adrenaline going, but it was a pretty easy walkthrough. And so I threw him up on the shoulders and they gave him his trumpet and he's playing his trumpet while I'm walking through the sea of humanity in there, a sold out venue where everyone's crowded in, but they start to part their way and get out of the way and let the band through. And so I walked him all the way up to where the steps were in Anthology and set him down. And then I just kind of followed the band right back up to my front and never missed a spot. So
there you
I didn't
go.
have to push through people. And it was a good freaking time. And Carrie ended up taping it. She was psyched because last time she tried to tape it and then her memory was full on her phone, so she couldn't do it.
All right.
I found some dude on Instagram who had actually videotaped me walking towards them. So I just got to see my face.
I did. You know what? You did send me that, and I actually found it hilarious because just the look on your face, it was like, you see a bunch of people that are, in the moment, drunk, dancing, whatever, and then all of a sudden, here's you with your fucking grills look, and this guy on your shoulder playing the trumpet. It was fucking hilarious. So,
yeah, it's pretty dope. So they're a lot of fun. If you ever get a chance, people to go check out the band Rubble Bucket if they're playing in your area. Even if you don't know the songs, you're gonna know them by the end of the night. They have real catchy tunes. There's just energy from not like start to finish. I mean, they're a lot of fun, lights, all kinds of fun stuff. So
I have to admit that I attempted to listen to some of their music on the, and I know the studio albums are different than actually being there live and in person. So I would like to take them up live and in person just to see, not necessarily my cup of tea, but that's not to say that they're not good or anything like that, or that I wouldn't enjoy myself in a concert there. So I might add that to the when I'm out of debt and able to spend and go do things. It's
not even expensive. It's like $20. I think I paid $20 for these tickets.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're pretty cheap. They're a very they're well known, but they're still a pretty independent band.
Okay.
So they're
That's
not
fair.
like huge. They're not on like some big major label record and a record label. So I mean, they're not. They're not getting Grammy nominations or anything like that. They're
all right.
They're a good band. They're a fun band. I think the most mainstream thing I'd ever seen them do was their song "If You See My Enemies" was playing in a Nintendo Switch commercial last year when they were launching the Nintendo Switch campaign. So other than that, I mean, they're pretty small potatoes, which is great because I get to go see them pretty cheap.
Cool. Very good. Well, while you're going ahead and going to concerts and all that stuff.
And then I went to the Sabres and Pens the next day too.
You went to the Sabres and Pens, see, while you're doing all that type of stuff and creating those memories and everything.
Yeah.
I'm getting blocked by former WWE superstars for calling out their craziness. For those of you that are fond of the Attitude Era of the WWE, there was a wrestler that was very famous for saying, "Hello, ladies." Wrestler Val Venus. Wrestler Val Venus apparently has a problem with wrestler JC Money calling him a crazy C word because he's a crazy C word. If you ever see what this guy posts online, I mean, he's so crazy that like the Trump conspiracists look at him and be like, "Damn, dude, you're crazy. There's something wrong with you," And I don't know. He blocked my former wrestling manager, Handsome Randall, for he posted something about, Hillary, but he always calls her Killary and whatever. And Handsome Randy just simply commented with a Snopes article that was a fact check to what he said. And so not only did Val Venus delete that comment with the article, but he introduced him to what Val Venus calls Blockville. So he brought Handsome Randy to Blockville.
Going well for Odell is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. He's out of shape. He runs a marijuana dispensary out in Phoenix, and he's out of shape, and he's absolute batshit crazy. Like batshit crazy. I'm not going to WrestleCon this year in New York City for WrestleMania weekend, but a few of my friends are. And I told them simply, if you happen to see Val Venus, tell him JC Money said hello. And, I just want to see if he, loses his shit or whatever. Maybe he'll be wearing his tinfoil hat and talking about lizard people and all that crap. Cause, he's fucking nuts. But
it's like Alex Jones nuts.
Yeah. I would equate him to Alex Jones. Absolutely. Very much. Very much. What got him mad was I asked him where he got his source from for whatever random wacky article, and he responded by throwing out insults. And so I responded back by saying, Minga, no wonder WWE wants nothing to do with you anymore. So he got mad at that and said, well, where are your sources for that? Where do you, let me do the Val Venus. Well, where are your sources for that? And so I said, I'd have commented, I don't know, Google. I typed in Val Venus /WWE, and it was the first link that popped up, kind of like how you do with your news articles.
Yeah.
And then I got this long Val Venus tirade about, welcome to Blockville, bitch. You're questioning my character, blah, blah, blah. So here, how about this, you stupid bitch? Enjoy your stay in Blockville. And I said, thank you very much for the,
it hurts.
I said, thank you very much. But before he had a
superstar,
before he had a chance to, I put this higher than the shilling, exchange that I had. But before he had the chance to add me to Blockville, I got my final shot in there. Saying I called him a crazy C word, and that was really the whole point of it. And it's something about lizard people or whatever. I don't know, just completely making fun of him. And he blocked me. So that was while you were going ahead and giving band member shoulder rides and fucking that sounded very very awkwardly sexual there. But while you were doing that and going to concerts and going to hockey games or whatever, I'm pissing off people on the internet like normal. So
well then,
hey, someone's got to do it.
That's right. I'm not available.
All right, fair enough. That's going to put an end to this podcast here. Thank you very much to all of you again for all of your support, for all of your listens, all your downloads and shares, and of course supporting this podcast and our network by using shopgear.com or gearnetwork.com or any of the sponsor links on gearnetwork.com. Really quickly, happy 5th birthday to my dear Emma. My youngest daughter turned 5 today. This day of recording, we had a tremendous weekend. Took her to Pop Rock. She loved the place. She's hooked now. She wants to go back tomorrow.
Yeah, we went before the concert, actually. I took some friends from Geneseo that had never been there, and they thought it was the coolest place ever.
Yes. Strong wrestling ties there as well. One of the owners, former WWE superstar Colin Delaney, Nick Ando, well-known independent wrestler, as well as Jason Xavier. All partners in there, all through the wrestling world. But anyways, Pop Rock. If you get a chance to go there, go there.
What did you have for breakfast? What did you eat?
I had
cereal choice.
I had the Cookie Monster mix.
Oh.
Well, and I washed it down with one of their monster mocktails or whatever. So I was good to go for for a little bit after that. And Emma had a bowl of Lucky Charms, but they had the what do you call it? The Sour Patch Kids cereal.
Yeah,
blew my mind because it tasted just like Sour Patch.
Really?
Sour
I don't know
Patch.
if I'd like that as a cereal.
You know what? I didn't get it, but I had a little small sampling of it, and it blew my mind. It was freaking crazy. But anyways,
Donkey Kong.
What's that?
I went to get the Donkey Kong last time I went.
Cool.
Nice. It was like Cocoa Pebbles, Nilla pudding, marshmallows, chocolate milk, and then banana slices.
Nice, very good.
Very good.
Yeah, I love that place, and now Emma does too. So, anyways, happy birthday, Emma! You're not listening to this podcast, and if you are, you shouldn't be. But happy birthday to you! Happy birthday, Gear Network! Gear Network as well turns 5. Gear Network was born a couple of days after Emma was. So, yay, Gear Network! Yay, us! Thank you all for all of your support throughout that time. And Brandon, let us do this again next week, shall we?
We shall.
Right. Good day to you, sir.
Good day to you as well.
So long, everybody. Good night now. Flava Flav, you know what to do.
Yeah, boy!
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.